We're starting off our day of unusually named towns in Natural Bridge, Alabama. Guy behind me, we just had a good chat here. He was telling me all about the history of the town. It's got a very unusual history. Now, it's called Natural Bridge because of a natural bridge that we're going to go to here in a minute. But it was incorporated early in the late 1800s, 1900s, I think, early 1900s, because it was a mining town. You see the railroad next to me. And so it grew to several hundred people and was a bustling little town. And then the mining went away, the town got smaller, and then it unincorporated. And then it was unincorporated all the way until 1997, and it reincorporated. And in the 2000 census was the smallest town. Hey, in the 2000 census was the smallest town in Alabama, and has grown a little bit and is now somewhere in the top 5. So I'm not sure. I'll put that on the screen here what it is. But yeah, so this is the town. Not a ton to it, as you can imagine, with only 32 people. But we'll check out town a little bit, and then we will head over to the Natural Bridge and see what all the fuss is about and why it got its name. Well, this is definitely a really cool place to stop. I've been to some other natural bridges, and this one's very impressive. I can see why they named the town after it. I like that tree right in the middle. So they have a path that said it was a little over a mile long. Seeing stuff like this besides the natural bridge. That's where I was just walking. Definitely want to watch your step there. I think the actual path is down here, and I went a little off-road. But yeah, there's lots of things to see here. There's even kind of up back there, there's more. So I think you could spend a whole day doing stuff. But we're here in Alabama to find the next unusual town, so let's head there now. Welcome to Brilliant, Alabama. What a name. Interesting history, too. You think, how does a town get the name Brilliant? And it was originally, so the word Brilliant was the Brilliant Coal Company. This was a coal mining area, and it was named Brilliant because the kind of sheen on the coal was very, very bright. And so that's how the company got its name, and it employed a lot of people in this area. But actually, there were two towns here. Boston was a town right next to Brilliant, basically side by side, and you could say they were kind of one town. But early on in the early days, Boston was an incorporated town and Brilliant was unincorporated. And then the end of the coal industry happened in the 1950s, and they decided to basically combine the towns into one and just call it Brilliant and incorporate more land and people into the same town. So it's kind of an interesting way of how it came to be. I was actually up in the town and talking to some people, and super friendly people, and one of the guys said, well, why are you here in Boston? So obviously people still refer to this area as Boston, at least part of it, or some of the people, depending on where they live. And so I thought that was interesting, even though officially the town is named Brilliant. The population has, you can see where it rose a little bit right there, 1950, 1960. I'm assuming maybe that was the combination of the towns. And it's held pretty steady, actually gone up and down a little, but generally up into the 845 now. So it's a nice town. Not too many abandoned places, some interesting things to see. So one of the great chess players of our country is from Brilliant, so that's pretty fitting. There's a nice mural of him up in town. I thought I was chuckling when I saw that. I'm in a park here, which is right next to the Bostic Cemetery, which I find interesting. They got a kids' park and a cemetery side by side. You don't see that very often, but it's named Bostic. That was an early settler, and that's where the term or the name Boston came from, was Bostic. Nice little community here. Brilliant, Alabama. The town of Glen, pronounced Gwen, is another funny story of how it got its name. And it has to do with this drive-in movie theater that I'm in. It's situated between the towns of Gwen and Winfield. And those towns kind of have their own interesting history. They're, larger. Winfield is almost 5,000 people. It's got a nice downtown. It's named after Winfield Scott. Actually, it had a funny name too. It was called Needmore, and then was eventually named Winfield after Winfield Scott. Gwen was named after early settler named with the last name Gwen. And then this area here is between those two towns. And as those two towns grew, and there were people that lived in between the two towns, there was talk of kind of annexing land into one of those towns or the other, and they didn't want that to happen. And this movie theater, this drive-in theater, which is now called Blue Moon Theater, was at the time named the Goo-Win movie theater, and it was obviously to serve both communities. And the people thought, well, let's name it that, and we'll call it Gwen. And And there you go. That's how it got its name, got incorporated that way, and it has become its own town. Now it's much smaller, and as you can see with the population figures, and but yeah, it's its own incorporated town, and it has this drive-in movie theater, which you don't see very many of those nowadays. I love the different names of the rows have different road names. That's a clever thing that they have done here at the drive-in. They've got kind of a bigger screen that I think might be maybe somebody lives there, and then a smaller screen. So 2 screens here, and but the rest of town, there's not much to it. Route 43 basically runs between the 2 bigger towns, and there's really not much, you know, there's a few businesses, there's a cemetery, but there's really not a lot of roads. There's just the main road through there and a few things on either side of the road. Apparently people do get mixed up when you say you're from Glen, if you're from this Glen, because it sounds pretty much identical to the other one. And yeah, so funny way to get your name, but a cool drive-in movie theater.